transplant center, then an intermediary, then all of these different transportation companies one at a time, they're wasting over 6 critical hours with this antiquated process. What this looks like is once there's an organ available, the transplant center will find out, they start prepping their patient for surgery, then this transplant coordinator, who's a registered nurse, is calling around to get flown, driven to the donor procurement site. In this case, it was in St. Louis, and this is a real case for Chicago, and then flown, driven back to Chicago. What we do is we automate the crucial and complex steps of securing the ground and air transportation, and we cure the key unpredictable and unreliable step for this transplant coordinator. And we do this with our digital scheduling platform that offers 24/7 access, real-time data, and actionable insights. This was created after interviewing over 300 stakeholders, and we're available both on web and on mobile. We sit between the transplant center and the transportation fleet. In our runs with different transplant centers, we've seen a 66% time savings, so cutting that 6 hours down to 2, an 80% effort reduction on behalf of these clinical staff members, and a 20% cost savings. And that's by nature of our competitive marketplace. So vendors are no longer charging monopolistic prices, as well as our lower overhead fees rather than having a manually staffed dispatch center. In terms of the ROI for a transplant center, they're seeing 1,000x. And that's because the average one is making 100 million in transplant revenue, and utilizing Pulse Charter Connect, they're able to increase their revenue growth via throughput by 20% for an estimated annual revenue increase of 100 million. In terms of our traction to date, we have 4 closed customers with Children's Hospital of Michigan, Donor Network West in San Francisco, Henry Ford Health, and here locally, Chicago Medicine. We've currently transported 4 organs for Henry Ford, and that was starting this month. And in order to accomplish this, we have over 120 aircraft onboarded onto the platform, as well as over 3,500 vehicles across the US ready to go. Our pipeline consists of 4 signed LOIs by the organizations marked, as well as conversations with over 10 transplant centers, hundreds of charter companies, and over 2,500 transplants to be done, saving countless lives. Our team comes from a range of backgrounds throughout different hospitals as transplant surgeons, administrators, and coordinators. And we also have logistics experts from a variety of different marketplaces, including Dispatch Health and Lyft, as well as acting within the Federal Aviation Administration and other government capacities. We sit within the $4 billion organ logistics market, which is expected to double within the next 5 years. And from there, we'll move with our contract relationships with the hospitals and transplant providers to the $88 billion medical transport industry. Our business model, so the transplant center will contract with us for the transport. They then pay us before they are next reimbursed by insurance with an existing CPT code, minimizing our reimbursement risk. Excited to dive in more, and this is just a little overview of our team. Thanks.
Great job, Laura. Okay, judges, you can join us on the virtual stage. And Laura, if you want to go sharing off, actually, that'd be great, so we can get everyone's faces nice and big. Ellen, you want to kick us off?
I'm happy to. Thanks, Laura. Obviously, it's a huge industry, one that I feel like is invisible for the average consumer. So thank you for bringing it to life and visualizing it. I'm curious about what you're actually kind of up against in terms of what the landscape looks like today. What behaviors are happening at the side of the transplant centers, hospitals? What are they currently doing? And who would you be competing against in this?
Yeah, that is a great question. So what they're currently doing is using traditional brokers or calling various transportation companies one at a time until they get somebody able to do the trip. And how these systems are working is it's antiquated phone trees with our competition taking upwards of 20,000 phone calls a day in order to coordinate these efforts. And that's actually how I learned about this space, was I was on the other end working with the charter company, getting multiple calls and playing phone tag all the time and realizing that we should have some sort of digital platform to communicate via.
Thank you.
Steve.
Desiree, were you going to call on us? Or
yeah, sorry, I was calling on you, Steve. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Well, then I'm glad I said something, because otherwise I would just continue to look dumb. So Laura, the team slide showed a bunch of really impressive logos, but I'd really like to hear more details on the management team.
Sure. So I am the CEO. My previous background was studied aerospace engineering at the University of Virginia, got my pilot's license, and then worked at the FAA for about 5 years. In terms of the CTO that we recently onboarded, he has been very integral with Dispatch Health, a Series E healthcare logistics company, and he previously founded a mobile phlebotomy company that he exited to Row, and had other strategic partnerships throughout. We do have 3 other full-time team members, so there's a project manager, a developer, and then operations staff. But we're looking to raise our seed in the future, and that's going to bring our fractional CFO and COO on board full-time as well.
Brian.
Such an important issue. Curious to learn more about the kind of business model and kind of like sales cycle. Curious of like how you're thinking about pricing. And I believe I looked into the space before. I think there's 250 transplant centers. Correct me if I'm wrong. Curious of like how you're thinking about the scale.
Sure. So I guess to start, in terms of our revenue or business model, it's twofold. So we have a subscription fee for anybody to be on the platform, and that's pretty nominal just to be underneath the signatory authority of whatever group needs to sign off within the hospital. Then the bulk of our revenue is on a brokerage fee that will be reimbursed to the transplant center by insurance, and that's how it's currently existing in the market with the traditional brokers. So that's kind of how we set that up. In terms of scaling that, so there's the 250 transplant centers, 50 organ procurement organizations, and then an assortment of other groups active in the space that we're selling to. And how we've seen the sales cycles is with a hospital, it could be a year for one of them. We've been able to expedite that down to 8 months. And then we're communicating with the organizations that are non-hospital and have shorter sales cycles because of the lack of needs for compliance and throughout the entire administration.
Okay, that's perfect timing. I got to cut us off, but great job, Laura. Judges, thanks for all the great questions. And we're all going to go video off and welcome Liv Labs and Melody Roberts onto the stage. Did we lose you, Melody?
I'm here.
We don't see your video.
Yeah, the wrong thing is showing. Hold on. I'm so sorry, despite rehearsal.
No worries. We practiced before and you were perfect, so I'm assuming it's going to come back.
Okay, I see it here. We're good.
All right, we see your screen. We still don't see you. Oh, looks like you're coming in. Perfect. All right. Well, we can see everything, so we'll start the timer when you're ready.
What do athletics, childbirth, and aging have in common? They can all cause urinary leakage, which nobody likes to talk about, even with a doctor. I'm Melody Roberts. I lead Liv Labs. We're on a mission to make continence self-care popular. That's the pitch. Because 29 million American women worry daily about leaking pee in public, whether they're working out or just having a laugh. And unfortunately, most of us initially respond not by seeking treatment, but by reducing physical and social activity. And even when we do seek treatment, it's hard to know where to start and rare to find all services in one place. At Liv Labs, we're building a self-care platform with the elements of clinical treatment, including a device for immediate symptom relief, tools to support rehabilitation, and semi-automated health coaching. We've already built proprietary coaching software and await a decision on an NSF Phase 2 grant award to fund its further automation. Our coaching clients already use our purpose-built video library and educational materials that will soon be integrated into our training app, which was prototyped with consumers last year and is nearly ready for release. Last but not least, we're developing a comfortable vaginal pessary of our own invention, worn in the vagina like a tampon, leaks with up to 98% effectiveness. And upon FDA approval next year, it will be available over the counter in the US, giving American women what they want most, symptom relief on par with surgery without the risks at great price. Our diversified revenue model blends high margin product sales with value-added services that help us build both basket size and customer relationships. Solution bundling will offer customers a great value. The total addressable market for this solution is huge and fast growing. Liv Labs will initially target the 9.5 million American women who are actively seeking help. We will find our early customers through professionals who influence them, like pelvic floor physical therapists and doctors, peripartum professionals, and even fitness trainers. In the second phase, we'll accelerate growth through national retail placements and brand marketing. Our traction includes government grants and investors like Y Combinator, FDA review of our plans, and stellar clinical research partners. Although the category is heating up, we're the only company building the integrated solution women really need. And with device approval next year and retail distribution by 2028, our projections put us on pace to hit $100 million in annual recurring revenue by 2030. We prototyped our trading app with consumers last year, and we'd love your financial support to complete the commercial beta of our platform and begin generating meaningful revenue. Our pessary was invented by my co-founder, Carly Price, who holds 41 patents and has designed several enduringly successful products you may even own. I'm a career innovator of consumer conveniences with a decade at McDonald's spent building global systems of self-service, like I'm now building scalable systems of self-care. The balance of our team are experts in hardware and software products and physical therapy services. Our advisors help with engineering, quality, regulatory, finance, and fitness. In the future, we envision aspirational retailers will stock our products and clinicians will recommend them. We're Liv Labs, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Melody. Coincidentally, this just came up at a founder dinner the other day, so I think you have some Chicago founders are already ready to be customers.
Indeed.
Steve, well, a fun one to kick off over to you.
It did not come up at a recent dinner that I was at. But I'm curious about the length of time between now and what I think I saw as 2028 as product being on retail shelves. Did I see that correctly? And if I did, can you kind of explain? I mean, this doesn't seem like brain surgery. So can you explain kind of why it's going to take 4 years, 5 years, whatever it's going to take?
Well, it may not. Let me first say that, but it will take 1 more year to get to FDA approval. So we can't commercialize without FDA approval. It's a Class 2 medical device. So that's a factor. However, the retail placement will come second to direct to consumer. So we'll launch direct to consumer. I would tell you that pessaries are not a destination visit today. Many women don't even know what they are. So there's a period of time where Liv Labs will be educating consumers on pessaries, and that'll take there's 2 strategies to do that. One is through the influencer marketing I spoke of, having the help of professionals who don't want to deal with this in their clinic, but know it's a valuable and successful solution for women. And the other piece of it is by launching a digital platform, we can introduce women directly to the pessary. So those are 2 factors.
Brian.
No, it's such an important issue. Curious to get your thoughts on, right now there's kind of like a consolidation that's happening in pointed solutions. Curious of your thoughts on kind of like other players like Hinge or Sword or Origin that have pelvic kind of like virtual platforms. Curious of like, is that an area that a distribution channel that you would ever go through just because they had the distribution already?
Yes. So I've already met with the head of Origin to start that conversation. But actual product sales are not focal for service-oriented businesses. And the service side of our business is direct to consumer as well. Sword, Hinge Health, and Origin today are all reimbursed services, and Hinge Health, for example, is only available if you have the right employer. So we're optimizing for access and affordability, but we will definitely be in partnership with, or even co-opetition with, other providers of analogous services and products.
Ellen?
Awesome. Hi, Melody. I have a question around obviously it makes a ton of sense that you're launching this digital platform while you're waiting for the Class 2 medical device to be able to come online. But I'm curious about whether you anticipate your customers for those two parts of your business, the hardware and the software, being the same. And if so, kind of what fuels your conviction that you may be able to cross-sell from the software into the pessary side of the business when it does come time to launch?
So the software has a broader application. We can use the software to help women with any, and men, frankly, with any form of urinary incontinence, not just stress urinary incontinence. The device, however, provides immediate symptom relief and up to complete dryness. So for women who begin the process of pelvic floor rehabilitation, having a complementary therapy that keeps them dry, lets them get to the gym and build core strength, is immensely valuable. And we'll be able to communicate that directly to them in our channel. Did that answer the question?
We have 10 more seconds if you have any final comments, Melody.
I just wanted to show it to you. It's real. This is the large, this is the small, and this is the applicator.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And thank you, judges, for your questions. And next, we're going to invite Ruchi Gupta with Yobi Care.
All right. Hello. Here we go.
Yeah, we can see it, so we can start
Perfect.
whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, let's go. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be at the TechRise Challenge and talk about Yobee, our microbiome-based scalp, hair, and skincare solution. So the problem, about half of the world suffers from dandruff, cradle cap, or eczema. And pretty much everyone has dry skin or dry scalp at some time in their lives or some season. It's over a $400 billion industry right now, but the gap is that most products have harmful chemicals, some that even have cancer warnings, and often steroids. And natural products are not often scientifically proven to work. Who am I? I'm Ruchi Gupta. I am the founder of Yobi Care, and I am a pediatrician at Northwestern and Lurie Children's Hospital. I'm also the founding director of the Center for Food Allergy and Asthma Research, where I have been studying the eczema to allergies to asthma atopic march for over 20 years. I've written 2 books about it, and most importantly, I am the mother of a child with cradle cap eczema and food allergy. Necessity is truly the mother of invention, and that was the case here when our daughter was born with eczema and cradle cap. I was smothering her with steroids and knew there was a better solution, so went to the lab with dermatologists and microbiome experts to create Yobee. And for the past 15 years, I've been sharing Yobee with patients. So Yobee was born out of love with the wisdom of nature and perfected with science. And at Yobee, we are on a mission to free people of that cycle of using harsh chemical-ridden products on their scalp, skin, and hair. So we are different. Why? Because we have the ProBiome blend. Now, this is natural ingredients like honey, turmeric, vitamin B12, and those probiotic extracts that restore the microbiome instead of stripping it. We have patented technology with Northwestern University, and we have done clinical studies in adults and children to show it to be safe and effective. Our clinical trials were measured by dermatologists and patient report to significantly improve scalp health. And not only the clinical trials, but our customers. So we are on the market as of last fall, and our Amazon reviews are just heartwarming. It has really impacted babies to the elderly. What is our competition? The one brands you know, but what's different about us? Natural ingredients, microbiome friendly, safe for all ages, free of those chemicals, and clinically proven. Our financial projections. So as I mentioned, we launched last fall. We are on our way to hit 300,000 by the end of this year. Currently, we are on our website, yobicare.com. We are on Amazon. We are direct to consumer through conferences and trade shows, and we are getting into B2B. We are in derm offices. We know the whole medical space very well. So we are getting into doctors' offices and medical salons and spas. So we are hoping to grow quickly with your help. Now, with the award money, this would be incredible for us as it would launch us, because what our issue is, we have an amazing product, but we're competing with these big brands. So the award would help us actually get into those AdWords and campaigns on Google and Amazon. It would help us put boots on the ground. When we go to derm offices and salon spas, they're all very, very interested and have great experiences with it and have started using it, but we need people in there to sell. Going to more conferences and trade shows, we always get great feedback. And then finally, social media campaigns. We need to invest in this to be able to go viral on that end. Again, thank you so much. Please do follow us and try it out yourself. And I'm excited to hear your questions.
Great. All right, judges, come on, please. And Ruchi, you can stop sharing your screen. That's okay.
Yes,
and Brian, can you kick us off on questions?
Yeah, no. As a person who has dandruff, and it's definitely an issue. Curious to learn more about and how you're thinking about CAC. And today, I know it's pretty early, but what's kind of like repeat purchases, kind of like those metrics?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm very excited to say repeat purchases. We're almost like 45% repeat purchases. And we usually see those since we started last fall, we're starting to see those repeat purchases come in. We usually go through a cycle. People use about one a month, one skin cream. I don't know if I mentioned that we have a skin cream, shampoo, conditioner, and a scalp mask. So the cycle is usually a month to 2 months for them, depending on if they're using it just for themselves or for the whole family. And then CAC, tell me again what you were asking.
Yes. So what is today? And I'm curious of like how you're thinking about reducing CAC. I think that's the end game for all consumer type products.
Yeah, and CAC
cost to acquire a customer.
Oh, cost. Oh, yes. No. I do. I'm learning all the lingo. So yes, our cost to acquire customer ranges. So right now our ROAS, or those markers for how much you spend to what you get, we're getting close to 1. So we're spending and getting on Amazon. When we go to other things, shows, etc., our CAC goes down considerably and also in the salon spas. So it's a very good question. Right now, I'd say it's even. We're spending and getting pretty evenly, but we're hoping that will start to change.
Ellen?
Thank you so much for this. I also have eczema, so I totally understand the need for this. I am curious, though. Obviously, this is a pretty crowded category if you're just looking at shampoos, lotions, creams. And maybe as a way of understanding how you might differentiate in that, I'm curious if you're targeting a specific consumer, if you were to think about kind of low acuity issues to like high acuity prescription needing, deep clinician oversight, where do you see your sweet spot in terms of the consumer, and how do you think about brand building or building credibility to really target them and win in this really crowded category?
Yeah, that's also a great question. What we're going after is we are very doctor heavy, like in terms of our medical team and science, but also very natural. And so trying to get into that education space and I'm making TikToks, you can go check them out, but trying to be the educator, right? We want to give real knowledge to our customers, on how to care for their skin and their scalp and their hair and their well-being overall. And it's all about the microbiome. So I'm hoping we can differentiate by having experts in the space, leading experts, be able to talk about it. And then your other question was
I'm going to chime in real quick so Steve can get a question in before.
Oh my gosh. Okay, my apologies. I'll be shorter. Go, Steve.
Thanks. Are you still practicing pediatrics full time? And if so, who's running the company?
Yeah, so I am still working at Northwestern, and we just started. So I am looking for a fractional CEO if you have anyone in mind. As we grow, and that's again what funds would help us with. We want to put in. I'm not, I'd be happy to give up my job and do this full time, but I know there are experts who can do it better, and you need me as a medical. So that is
okay. I got to cut us off, but that was a great job, and
hope you all
a lot of interesting questions.
All
right. Great job, Ruchi. Okay. And then last but not least, we have Sarah Blythe joining us from Mercurial AI.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
We can, and we're seeing your
Wonderful.
slides.
My name is Sarah Blythe. I'm the CEO of Mercurial AI. Currently in the United States, there are not enough oncologists for the number of breast cancer patients. It's about 200 patients for one oncologist, and some oncologists in large institutional centers see between 500 and 600 patients a year, meaning they have limited time for their patients, face medical malpractice issues, and patients can be on long-term ineffective treatments. Breast cancer is the leading cause of cancer death for millennial women in the United States, and solving this problem represents an over $5 billion market opportunity for us. So how are we doing that? Well, we generate hyper-specific treatment plans for breast cancer patients, recommending the right treatment the first time, saving patients valuable time and insurers and hospitals money by cutting out ineffective treatments. We do this by cross-referencing a patient's medical record with published guidelines from ASCO and NCCN, along with peer-reviewed journals and studies to provide the right recommendations. All of this is displayed within our physician application, which provides oncologists with the information they need at an easy glance, giving them more time with their patients and improving their standards. We also provide a large language model, which are trained on the same guidelines, so physicians can answer questions and receive specific answers relevant to their patient. As a dual-sided application, we also have a patient-facing app, which provides patients with a second opinion in their pocket. They also have access to that large language model for them to easily understand and ask questions about their conditions and their medications. We are launching our patient application later this month and are doing product-led growth that way, while we're also selling directly to hospitals. In terms of channel sales, we have the opportunity to sell to insurers, white label our treatment recommendation engine for it to be offered natively within EHRs, and the patient outcome data is monitored and tracked no matter what, whether the physician chooses to follow our treatment or choose their own treatments. And that outcome data is highly valuable and can be sold to pharmaceutical companies, regulatory agencies, and other government researchers. We're not stopping at breast cancer. We want to expand it to other cancers. And because our recommendation engine and our platform can be agnostic, we're looking to expand into chronic diseases like your diabetes, chronic kidney disease, and COPD. I've been a registered nurse for half a decade now, focused in oncology and robotic surgery. And the CTO, founder, Dennis, has his PhD in AI technology from University of Connecticut and has used those novel techniques at Argonne National Labs, Los Alamos National Labs, and has really been influential in what we are building here. We have wonderful advisors supporting us, including former FDA agents, oncologists, and AI researchers, as well as technologists within this space. With $25,000, we can execute on our FDA pipeline, and we can start saving the lives of mothers, daughters, and friends everywhere. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. You can go ahead and stop sharing, and we will start with Ellen. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you. Thanks, Sarah. Really powerful place to build. I'm curious about the physician side. Like, what gives you conviction that physicians want this? You know, physicians changing any of their workflows takes effort for them. It's a lot to ask. Can you talk about their interest and what gives them excitement about this tool?
Yeah, so their interest really comes in the fact that we display the information that they need the most. So they're not searching through the bloated EHR like they are normally. That can take up valuable time when that time can be spent with patients. We also provide citations to studies that are relevant to the patient, and those studies can be published across 7 to 12 different journals and can often go under the radar in terms of what physicians are, recognizing as potential treatment options for their patients.
Steve?
So the go-to-market strategy, if I saw properly on that slide, was to go directly to doctors or hospitals. And if I'm correct about that, I'd like you to explain a little bit further what your thinking is on that, because it seems to me like that would be really challenging.
They are long sales cycles, just like anything into hospitals. Having my experience, I've been on the other side of the table during these conversations with healthcare systems. I know what it takes to, make them evangelicalize into our product. I know who needs to be stakeholders in this, and, get into the timeline of their IT implementation.
Right.
Yeah, and how are you thinking about kind of like the competitive landscape? Like Jasper Health, kind of like Time Care, other like cancer-related startups in the field today, and curious to get your take on like, is it, how do you differ and how do you kind of like think about your differentiation between the other products today in the market today?
Yeah, so us being specifically focused on breast cancer means that we can dive deep into this and recommend the right treatments the first time. While it is a crowded space, we are targeting hospitals that are not your major metropolitan centers. So helping the little guys and helping those smaller clinics be able to provide care to their wide populations. There are many states in the United States that do not have NCCN certified care hospitals for breast cancer. So we're targeting those hospitals for them to be able to offer the best treatment for all of their patients. We strongly believe that patient outcomes should not be related to whether or not they can get into MD Anderson or Northwestern or City of Hope.
We actually have time for another question or so. Does anyone have another question? All right, Sarah, do you have any final words before we let our judges go deliberate?
No, thank you so much for having me.
Well, great job. And judges, thank you so much. You now have the unenviable job of choosing a winner for today's $25,000 prize. So we will say goodbye to you, and we are going to welcome our guest speaker today. UC. All right. Hi, Melissa. I'm opening your bio, but I put it on the wrong page. So give me one quick second. So it's great to see you. All right. So while the judges are deliberating, I'm excited to bring on stage Dr. Melissa Dennis, Chief Medical Officer at Partum Health. She is the Chief Medical Officer and a parent Partum is a parent-founded startup that provides interdisciplinary pregnancy and postpartum care that complements what women receive from their OBs and midwives. She completed her training in obstetrics and gynecology at Rush University in Chicago after obtaining her undergraduate and medical degrees in the accelerated BA-MD program at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, my hometown. In addition to her undergraduate and medical degrees, she holds her master's in healthcare administration from Oklahoma State University. And throughout her 20 years in healthcare, Dr. Dennis has provided high-skilled, evidence-based, and compassionate care to her patients in the ambulatory and inpatient settings. While caring for both low-risk and high-risk pregnancies, Dr. Dennis honed her leadership skills in many roles, including at Advocate Illinois Masonic, and then her roles as Director of Obstetrics and Associate Chair and Chair of the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology. That you have a lot of accolades, so congratulations on being so ready for this work. And we've known about Partum for a while. It's great to have more women's health businesses emerging here in Chicago. And so can you just tell everyone a little bit more about Partum and what brought you there?
Yes. So Partum, I like to describe as everything but the OB or midwifery care. So all of that perinatal support that patients need to really make it a safer experience, a more joyous experience, is what we're offering in a very tech-enabled, patient-friendly way. So pelvic floor physical therapy, lactation, nutrition, mental health support, curated evidence-based education, asynchronous learning, and we do it all in an in-network manner so that we're trying to really, minimize the obstacles for patients as they try to obtain these services. As far as my journey there, I was one of those weird physicians who always knew I was probably not going to be a full-time clinician. And so kind of advanced in leadership to where I felt like I reached my glass ceiling, as many people do, in a more traditional healthcare environment, got my master's, and then just kind of started thinking, what is that right next step for me? And was very lucky that at the time I was looking, Partum Health was looking. And so it's been a great match since I joined in 2022.
Amazing. So I see that in addition to that role, you're also a medical advisor and a clinical professor, and you've also founded your own ventures. So what else have you founded?
I have. So my husband and I together, we're both physicians. We have really tried to figure out creative ways of using our medical degrees. So we have co-founded what's called Citizen MD, which teaches life-saving medical techniques to non-medical professionals. It's, we just want, sort of sometimes it's the teacher who is the first responder in these horrible, mass casualties, or just someone walking in the street. So really arming people with those life-saving, skills. And then together we also work as the medical advisors for Chicago Med Fire and PD, largely Chicago Med. So anything that you see on TV in the Chicago Med, we've written, consulted, done together as well. So we're odd birds. I don't know what else to say. we're not normal.
As a founder who sees things that I'm busy, it sounds like you are even busier. So.
Yes,
I don't watch those shows because my husband is a police officer here in Chicago, so I feel like we bring it home already. And but I thank you for exposing your craft to the rest of the world who does definitely watch it. So I think a lot of times people think that they go into these very specific degrees and careers, and that they have all this kind of sunk cost associated with it. And I'm just curious, like, what do you think gave you the courage to say, this doesn't have to be all that I do for the rest of my life?
Right. Well, it's really interesting because, like I said, I knew that I wasn't going to be practicing, but always assumed that my administrative roles would lead me to being probably the chief medical officer of a large healthcare system or a hospital, because that's really all I knew. And like you said, physicians, like, we have just such this narrow scope of training, or so we think. And so then when I started looking at what other jobs are out there, and I kind of looked at the different buckets, whether it be pharma or startups or healthcare systems, I really just got so excited by the startup field and really kind of then focused on that and thought, I am still the expert, in this field. I'm not looking to be the CEO of my company. I'm looking to be the medical expert of my company, and realize that I do bring a lot of value with there. But it was still very scary. I will say that anytime you're making such a significant career shift like this, you have to kind of take that deep breath and realize that I'm coming from being sort of at the top of one career where I was to, learning again and figuring things out again and making mistakes again and being like, that's okay. I am new in this role. So it was a leap I knew I wanted to make. Didn't necessarily know it was going to be to a startup, but couldn't be happier that that's where life led me. I will also say, and I don't encourage anyone else to have breast cancer, but I am a breast cancer survivor as well. And so all of this was happening at the time that I was navigating my own care. And I was really realizing from a patient perspective, all of these shortfalls in receiving care as a two-physician family. And so I just became even more passionate about making sure that larger populations had access to easily seeing what care is available to them and getting navigated to that care.
Oh, that's incredible. Thank you. And congratulations on
Thanks.
overcoming what is a very, very challenging experience from what I witnessed of friends. So glad that you are here and healthy and sharing your story with us today. I heard this quote the other day that was like, the rest of the world has support systems, like mostly from a government perspective, and America has moms. We women and moms run the things that like support organizations should be running. And you are definitely describing that now because of just all the things that you do, including Citizen MD. But I mean, I guess I'm using that as kind of a way to bring us back to the importance of Partum and the role that you all play in keeping moms healthy. And I know that there's an increased kind of movement within the startup space, but I'm curious, like, you've been able to see probably the landscape of different startups. How do you guys see yourselves differentiating in what is becoming increasingly crowded, but also like kind of reminding people of why this is so important, especially those people who are not in a position to have children or have not had children yet?
Right, absolutely. So one thing I'll say is it's exciting to see more people in the space, because I do think that, the more people who are really focusing on this time of life or in women's health, the better it is going to be for these people who are, going through this life transition. The way that I would say, though, that we are, differentiated is that we we do still value the importance of that in-person care. and also what can be done through telehealth should be done through telehealth. So it's really kind of what I like to say is it's the care that patients want, when they want, where they want, and how they want. I'm old, but this generation wants to be able to do everything with their phone, but that's not always the best thing. Sometimes someone really does that hands-on care. So we're able to differentiate ourselves by providing both and making sure that people have access. I'd say another way that we are different is the fact that we are in network with commercial insurances. We were unable to do so until I came on as the chief medical officer, because you do have to have a physician who owns the corporation to become in network. And that is a big differentiator for us, is that we're not cash pay. We at this point don't have membership fees. We really are trying to get people access to the care that they deserve and that they already are offered through their commercial insurance, and are working very hard to become in network with Medicaid as well.
That is such a critical distinction, especially Silicon Valley, where there's all these different services going through employers. And like, if you work at a big company, Google or Amazon or something, that's great. But if you are from a small town or a small employer or self-employed, many of those resources are out of pocket. They're just too expensive. And so incredible that you guys have found this new one. So how can people find Partum? And is it usually the consumer that comes first, or is it through, how do they find Partum?
So it's a multitude of ways right now. Word of mouth, moms ask moms. That is and will never change. So people will find us from former clients of ours. Google search is a large way that people find us, and then direct referrals from their OB or midwives as well. We've done a lot of outreach into the community so that people know us as a very trusted provider. And so when they're looking for one of these services for their patients, they will refer. We are working, on some B2B partnerships, which we are really excited about, so that hopefully even more people will have access to a very standard suite of services that they should receive during their pregnancies.
And I just realized
sorry,
go ahead.
www.partumhealth.com.
Also very important. We'll put it probably in the comments too when it is posted to YouTube. But I'm realizing that maybe we need to get a little specific for the audience too on what the positive outcomes are of having the interventions like Partum can mean for women. I'm sure at the extreme, it means saving women's lives in many different ways. But maybe there's some, smaller things too that we can describe.
Yeah, absolutely. So, our non-clinical service line is birth and postpartum doulas. And I'm going to start there because there's a lot of evidence that actually shows that people who work with a birth doula have decreased C-section rates, shorter labors, decreased risk of the baby going to the ICU. They feel more empowered, they're happier with their birth experience. So that is huge. Those are things that sometimes can't be measured, but can be measured, but aren't always measured. And so, working with birth doulas is fantastic. As far as behavioral health, we know that prevention with cognitive behavioral therapy can actually prevent some of these more significant perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. And perinatal mood and anxiety disorders are the number one cause of maternal mortality within a year of death, whether it be drug use, maternal suicide, or other severe, disorders. And so just really focusing on how we can prevent, and then also how we can identify and treat is also really important. Physical therapy, no one makes it through a childbirth or even carrying a child without having those pelvic floor muscles stretched, urinary incontinence, chronic pelvic pain. These are consequences of just carrying a pregnancy, regardless of how you deliver. And we know that pelvic floor physical therapy can have significant impact on that. Nutrition, gestational diabetes, obesity, chronic hypertension, all of these things are really, easily, not easily, that's the wrong word, but can be addressed by a well-balanced diet. And it can also affect mood as well. So when you look at the suite of services we offer, and I'm not sure I hit all of them, but really all of them have these really statistically significant impact on making it a safer pregnancy journey and a happier one. And one of our lactation consultants who was going to a patient's house afterwards was actually the first person to recognize that this patient was experiencing what's called severe preeclampsia that can be life-threatening. And the patient had kind of ignored some of her symptoms. And our lactation consultant said, no, you need to go back to the hospital. And so really can be life-saving to have that person come into your home postpartum who can identify things and help in ways that you're not identifying.
It is so important. And I mean, you've said everything from depression to preeclampsia to, a variety of things. And I know that we think about those as kind of one-off kind of illnesses in a moment. But there's also kind of like a macroeconomic thing here too, that when you think about women in the most kind of vibrant stages of their life having to deal with this meaningful health event, that is not just the bundle of joy that arrives, but everything that goes around that and what it costs society. It seems like you guys should be able to pull a lot of money from the government. So I'm wondering, is there federal funding to support this alongside what's happening with?
Yes, it's actually very, it is exciting. And yes, so mental health alone costs, I think, $7 billion, that was the last statistic I most recently read in maternal mental health. So yeah, that's just one of the things that we treat. Yes, so the White House did just release that they are going to be doing $12 billion in funding in women's health, that, they're doing some really exciting sprints for people to access this money. And we are, really excited about trying to dive into that to get some federal support for the work that we are doing.
And then I would imagine that there's some people that are listening or watching right now that maybe have had their kids a couple of years ago. And I'm curious if there's a role for Partum in women who are kind of still maybe feeling some of the echoes of postpartum anxiety or postpartum depression, or the physical challenges that we've some of our other competitors today were talking about.
Yes, absolutely. And we are not going to turn anyone away, is what I would say. If you are trying to conceive, if you had recurrent pregnancy loss, if you're 2 years out and realize, and this is the first time you're hearing that there can be help available to you, we will help you. We're not going to say no if it is somehow related to the perinatal period, whether that was acutely and you're going through it right now, or it was 2 years ago and you're finally coming out of the fog and you're like, wait a minute, I now am still leaking urine every time I cough or sneeze, and this is a consequence of my childbirth. Yes, we will help you. And again, like you mentioned, if you're realizing that you're maybe suffering from anxiety or depression that is still related to parenting or the family dynamics that have changed, we're there for you as well.
And then I'm just curious, what role does Partum play for the dads or for the non-birthing partner, I should say?
Yes. So for the non-birthing partner, we welcome everyone to our platform. So one of the things that we do offer is a group chat, meaning that every single person who is receiving care, every single person they're receiving care with, gets to communicate with them. So if you're seeing a lactation consultant, a behavioral health therapist, you're part of that chat, and all partners are offered to be there as well, so that this healthcare is not being delivered in silos. And then we, excitingly, actually just created some new partner content. So stay tuned, it's coming, because this is a change that happens to the entire family. And so we want to be able to support the birthing partner as well through this change.
Amazing. Well, I've been very open about the fact that I had pretty significant postpartum anxiety after my first and a little bit after my second. So I just decided to stop with the two. But many of my friends who are also in their early 40s are having last minute babies or sometimes first babies. And so I'm curious if there is extra programming or extra support for these unfortunately named geriatric pregnancies that are the women of my generation. So curious, how the advice or counsel, if it changes at all, if it does.
We don't have any support groups or anything different specifically to that population, but I would say is, if you are a member of that, I also don't like the term, I'm more geriatric than you, but geriatric population, these services are even more important to you because of all of the life changes you're going through. And likely when you are then, postpartum, it's not going to be uncommon to then start transitioning into a perimenopause, which, that's a whole nother life change. So getting this support that you need during the pregnancy to then carry you through that postpartum and perimenopause period is going to be really important.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like the judges are just wrapping up. So I guess, do you have any final thoughts? Anything I didn't cover that we should have?
No, I'd say good luck to everyone. And I'm really excited to hear about all of the wonderful things that you are doing and leading. And, I will put my email in the chat. So I've met a few of you in person, but for anyone else who would want to reach me, feel free to reach out.
Great. Well, thank you. And I think I actually timed this just a little bit off. I got the nudge that they were done, but they aren't back on screen yet. So I might just ask a couple more questions. And that is, are you physically, are you physically in Chicago?
I am physically in Chicago, yes. So, because we are hybrid, our team is kind of all over, but a core set of our executive team is here in Chicago. So it's really nice to be able to work in person one day a week and have that team and the camaraderie and, just being able to kind of bounce ideas off of someone next to you instead of through Slack.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm assuming that since you're not, CEO, you don't have to do as much of the fundraising, but I'm sure you're also involved in a lot of those conversations. So I'm just curious if, a lot of, especially women-led companies or where women are the primary customer, and as I can attest, can be harder to fundraise for. And so I'm curious, if you're seeing that right now, especially given kind of the macroeconomic climate.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. And I am, Megan, who is our CEO, is obviously the largest person who does our fundraising, but I am involved in a lot of those discussions as the chief medical officer and consider ourselves, I'm very happy that we were able to close a round because of the macroeconomic environment that is, in existence right now. So yes, when you look at the VC dollars and where that money goes, there's still a very small percentage of it that goes to, women's health and then also women-led ventures. And so, for those of us who are here, I'd say let's just keep trying to change that one startup at a time. And, ultimately we get loud enough that we can't be ignored. And hopefully that will shift so that more funding goes to women's health and also to women-led ventures.
I completely agree. And I think, it's a hard vein to tap, but if we can do more with family offices, especially with the transition of wealth that's happening right now across America, where more women will be responsible for multi-generational wealth than any time in history. I think $70 trillion is something crazy across the world is getting transitioned in the next decade. So I do think that we have an opportunity to, activate that next generation of women who are thinking about values-aligned investments for their family offices, their family foundations, and their family wealth. So for the founders who are in this category listening, I hope you can start to build your network there, because I think that's going to be an important part of building an inflection point for all of these businesses.
Yeah, I completely agree. My daughter is 20, and I can tell you that her generation is not going to hear of this. Like, they are going to be like, no, there is no reason it shouldn't be, equal, if not more, going to women who are, receiving this care and starting up this care.
Yep. Completely agree. Well, okay, it looks like they are coming back now. So
okay.
Melissa, and I should call you Dr. Dennis. Melissa, thank you so much for spending this time with us. And hopefully you encouraged some people who are watching that are maybe in careers that they think is only one path to think about different ways they can use their skills to help bring value to the world. So really appreciate that you are bringing your talents to this important topic, and grateful to have had you on the show. And with that, I think judges are coming back on, and they're going to announce the winner. And this doesn't usually happen this slow, so I'm sorry, but it's coming on now. Okay, Lucy is back, so I'm assuming that means that other people are coming on now. So judges, if you could come video on and audio on, and then founders, if you could come back on too, so we can celebrate the winner together as a group. All right, who's announcing our winner today?
That's me.
All right, Ellen.
Awesome. Well, first, just thank you. Thank you, TechRise. This has been amazing. Thank you to all the founders. This was quite the drinking from the fire hose hour that we've had. If only every hour was this productive, we'd probably see a lot more innovation in the world. So thank you for inspiring us. I think in particular, it's awesome to see 4 women founders really taking on meaningful issues across the board in health and in wellness. I think when I think about the problems that you all have decided to solve, there's a lot of kind of similarity in how you're addressing things that are overlooked, kind of archaic systems. You're bringing modernity to what is kind of hacked together. So I think there's a lot of cool innovation and inspiration there. So thank you for being inspiring to us. I will start with our runner-up. Our runner-up is Melody Roberts with Liv Labs. There was a lot that we loved, obviously, about what you're building, how you're taking this tool that is effective and important and bringing it into a more modern context and serving this very important audience.
I'm going to add, just so the audience knows, that the runner-up is a really important win. Even though it doesn't come with money today, it does mean that you're eligible for the grand finale at the end of the year, which is $100,000 in non-dilutive funding. So it is an important distinction. Thanks, Ellen.
Thank you.
And then that leaves us with just our winner, and our winner, congratulations, is, drum roll please, thank you, Laura Epstein with Pulse Charter Connect. Laura, they're again going back to this idea of modernizing what is archaic and bringing true innovation to a space that might not be modernized today. So congratulations and thanks for inspiring us with all the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Well, great job to everyone. But Laura, congratulations on the win. And judges, thank you so much. And Steve and Origin, thank you so much for today's prize. We really appreciate your support, and as the founders do too. As a reminder, founders, this is not a one and done experience. You are welcome back on the TechRise stage, and we can't wait to bring you back and have you win one of the future prizes. And thanks as always to our partners, Stephen at Verizon, and to the Capital Readiness Program at NVDA for their support. And we can't wait to see you all next week.
Bye, everybody.